How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be heading back into the events of What If Damon was in the MCU. If you guys missed the last part where we covered the events of the Winter Soldier, then make sure to click the link up above to go and check it out. In this episode, we continue on with Phase 2, so if you want to see this series continue, then make sure to like this video and subscribe. That way, I can continue making parts to this. If this video hits 300 likes, then I'll make sure to continue it. As views are dwindling on this series, so if nobody's interested anymore, I just won't continue it, unfortunately. Anyways, huge shout out to all of my amazing patrons for your continued support, as it really helps to keep this channel going. With all that out of the way, let's get right back into this video. After harnessing my lightning abilities, training has slowly winded down, and I take a break from pushing myself all the time, so that way I can try and prepare for Rush Hour's imminent return. Though, as a superhero, it's hard to just sit around and relax, as I still gotta try to go and help out people. Karis and I do a great job as the heroes of New York, where we're really seen as its permanent protectors, so that's awesome. I've been struggling with something in my head though, as we're nearing the time frame of Guardians of the Galaxy. I want to go out there and help save everybody during the attack on Xandar, but I'm really worried about pushing ourselves out there into Thanos' radar even more, since again, if he comes here early, I don't think we're ready to stop him. Karis tells me that while that is a risk, Thanos already knows about the Avengers anyways, and doubts that he'll start his plan till his original time frame, since there were more Avengers there than in canon, so he'd need more power to be able to deal with all of us. Thanos shouldn't be any problem if he shows up without all the Infinity Stones. I tell her she's right, and she wants to come with me to help out and save a lot of lives, which she responds to by putting on her Violet Knight costume. Now, to be able to save many more people, the two of us can't just go in alone, as that wouldn't be much help. So, I go to the biggest heavy hitter I know, Thor, and ask him if he wants to help out in saving the Nova Corps from Ronan. Thor is always up for a good challenge like this, and agrees to come with us. With Thor on our side, we should be able to save a lot more people, though not nearly enough. This calls for somebody with a history with Ronan, who would be able to know the ins and outs of his ship. I zip over to Nick Fury, and tell him that there's a huge alien conflict out in space right now with the Kree, and if he remembers who they are. Fury tells me that yes he does, and asks me how I know about them. I lie and tell him that Thor told me, and how I remember reading into files that Captain Marvel dealt with them and defended the Earth from them, so the best person to help us take a powerful one out for good is her. Fury has no reason not to call her now, since these were the people that controlled her in the past, so this would be personal. So she'd definitely need this. He takes out his pager and calls her in, so now all we gotta do is wait. All of us wait to the location we called her to, and suddenly, Carol Danvers, the Captain Marvel, lands in front of us, asking Fury what's the matter. Fury explains what I said about the Kree, and I introduce myself to her, saying I read how she fought with Ronan back in the day, and he's going to hurt a lot of people if we don't have her help. She says that she's had quite a few run-ins with Ronan over the years, and she's been helping the Nova Corps for a long while now. She would love to help. She introduces herself to Karis and Thor, and her and Thor specifically definitely get along right away, which is cool to see. She asks us how we plan on getting there, and Thor says that with the Bifrost we can all get there instantly, so the huddle close. Carol tells Fury that we'll be back after the mission, and not to wait up. Thor uses the Bifrost to send us straight to the Nova Corps, and all of us almost throw up, especially me, since I'm not used to not being on my feet. The Nova Corps let us in since we're all with Captain Marvel, and we had the Nova Prime to tell her about how we got intel of Ronan the Accuser coming to invade this planet. Nova Prime tells us that they just got the same message from somebody called Star-Lord, and that if Captain Marvel herself is informing them, then they'll definitely get in a position to help out. It's so surreal for Karis and I to be on another planet, and see different kinds of people on it. Sure, we've literally traveled dimensions before, but to be out in space on another one is cool to take in. No time for sightseeing though, as Karis and I need to stay on the ground to evacuate the city. Karis opens a portal far away as I begin to grab people off the street and bring them through, that way they can be out of harm's way. Thor and Captain Marvel head into the sky to meet up with the Ravengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy. The Nova Corps arrives too to help, and Thor and Carol fly around destroying the ships to clear the way for the Milano to infiltrate Ronan's ship. The Guardians are able to enter the ship much easier this time, and Yondu is able to stay in the air due to Thor destroying all the ships around him, so he can make it. More ships fly towards the city, but that's when I transform and begin to shoot my lightning towards them and destroy them while saving people. Karis is able to telekinetically throw the rubble at them, and even push the ships into each other for that matter, to blow them up. She can even open plenty of portals all around, that way I can shoot my lightning into them and take out many ships at once. While fighting, Karis sees that Nebula is attempting to escape, and opens a portal right in front of her ship, and has it fly directly into the ground. Karis grabs Nebula out, and the two then begin to fight. Nebula goes to attack her normally, but Karis is able to block the blows by using her telekinesis to stop them in their tracks. She shoots out her green energy to blow her away, and slams her into the ground. Nebula goes to stab at her, but she blocks it with her own dagger and then sends him around to circle Nebula and slash all around her to weaken her. Kara says that she can help her defeat Thanos. All she has to do is just stay here and listen to them. Nebula doesn't want anything to do with this anymore and says she'll kill Thanos her own way. But Karis knows that's not going to work out for her, and decides to just give her to Gamora after this. Karis lifts a large piece of the ship into the air and throws it down on Nebula to pin her there, and says she'll come back for it later. Though Karis knows that with Nebula down, Ronan is about to bring down a whole lot of Nova Corps ships, and tells Carol that she needs to get in there now and stop them. Up in the sky, Carol tells Thor to handle the rest of these ships, and she's got to go and stop Ronan. Carol flies into the ship and knocks Ronan down before he can blast away the ships. Ronan says that he remembers her, and at this time, he's more than powerful enough to stop her. He's right too, since as we saw in Endgame, Carol can be damaged by the Power Stone, so this fight is a tough one for her as she battles a powered up Ronan. As the two clash, the Guardians show up and blast directly at Ronan, sending him flying back. This gives Carol the edge she needs to fire all she's got at his hammer and try and get the Power Stone away from him. Her attack shatters the hammer, and the shockwave sends her and Ronan back. The Power Stone begins to go crazy, and Peter jumps in to stop it before it brings the whole ship down. Once he grabs it though, its power begins to overwhelm him. But, just like in the movie, Gamora, Drax, and this time, Groot, all go over to put their hands on him as well, and Ronan asks them how they can hold an Infinity Stone since they're mortal. Peter comes up with the coolest name off the top of his head, and says it's because they're the frickin' Guardians of the Galaxy, and extends his hand to disintegrate Ronan. With Ronan dead, they've won, but the damage done by the Power Stone is too great and the ship begins to go down. The Nova Corps all fly away from the ship to avoid killing themselves, and the Guardians all look on as the ship goes to crash. That's when Captain Marvel reappears, and grabs all of them, telling them to hold on as she gets them out of there. Carol flies right out of the ship with the Guardians in tow, and tells Karis to open a portal. Karis opens the portal under them, and the Guardians safely fall to the ground, with Groot not needing to sacrifice himself. Yeah, Groot gets to actually survive this movie, and while that means we won't be getting a baby Groot, the original gets to live and stay with the Guardians. Thor and Carol finish up with the last of Ronan's fleet and return to the ground, the battle being won, and a whole lot of innocent lives being saved. Yondu still goes to take the Power Stone from Quill, and Carol goes to kill him for trying to take it, but I tell her to trust him, and he knows what he's doing. Quill gives Yondu the fake Power Stone container, and the Ravengers leave, meaning that the day is now truly saved. The Nova Corps thanks all of us for coming to their aid, and pardons all of the Guardians for their past criminal records. It's nice how I get to meet the Guardians of the Galaxy, and Quill says that Karis and I got some sick costumes and loves our superhero names. That's always nice to hear, and we tell him he's got a badass name too, and an excellent taste in music. Karis gives Nebula over to Gamora, and Gamora says that she'll stay in their custody, since they need to talk things out and try and have her get over her fear of Thanos. The Guardians depart to Xandar, and Thor once again opens the Bifrost so all of us can return to Earth. Fury asks us how the mission went, and of course, it was an absolute success. Carol thanks us for calling her, and says that if we ever need anything else from her, to call, since it was great working together. Captain Marvel then blasts off to parts unknown, and that ends Guardians of the Galaxy. I tell Karis it was a good idea to go off and fight since we saved a lot of people and made a bunch of new friends and powerful allies. Now, if you've seen my MCU timeline video, you know that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was actually a few months after the first one, so we gotta head into the events of that one next. After the battle on Xandar, I'm pretty sure that Nebula would be reformed to some degree, as we could tell she was already on the ropes with turning against Thanos in the first movie, and also by her depressing line in Endgame of "he won't let me." So with all the Guardians around to support her and to show her what happened to Gamora, they'd be able to at least get her on their side. After her and Gamora have another fight, of course, since that worked nice in Volume 2. Speaking of Volume 2, to get into the events of that movie, the Guardians would all fight on the Sovereign, and this time we'd have the original Groot and Nebula to help fight, so it would go a lot faster. Obviously, instead of Nebula's reward, they'd probably get a lot of units. Things from here would play out around the same, with Ego showing up and revealing himself as Quill's father. From here, once the Ravengers arrive, Rocket, Groot, and Nebula would all be working together to fight them off, and would most likely win against everybody until Yondu shows up to stop them. When it comes to Yondu, Groot could be the one to take the brunt of his arrow, as we know how durable he is, and we would probably get stuck inside of him, and he can just grab it and break it. From there, Rocket or Nebula could beat him down, and Rocket can ask him what he knows about Quill's father, as he knows he was hired to bring him to him, and wants to know what the deal is. Yondu reveals what Ego has done, and this obviously shocks everybody there, and they decide to take in Yondu with them, and leave the others there to go after Ego. Everything on Ego's planet happens as normal, except for Nebula going to kill Gamora. And this is when, on Earth, Karis and I are just vibing at Dairy Queen in Missouri, waiting for that plant to go off and corrupt the planet. Once it does, I'm able to speed everybody out of the Dairy Queen and out of the area in total, and once the corruption stops, I tell Karis it's time to go and help out. she pulls out the old temp pad and asks if this is actually going to work. I tell her, I hope so, and put my finger on it, attempting to use my electricity to charge it up so it can work again. But since I've seen Shazam, I know not to use too much. Once it's all charged up, she types in the coordinates for Ego's planet at this exact moment in time, and we step through the doorway to go and help. We land on the surface and wait for the Sovereign to show up, and once they do, we blast them with everything we have. They obviously weren't expecting others like us to be here, and all we gotta do is hold them off and make sure they don't stop the Guardians from drilling into the core. Though with us stepping foot into the planet, Ego now knows where we are, and binds our legs, sucking us into the planet. I transform to blow away the ground beneath me, but Ego's ground is too thick and we begin to get sucked in. Karis tries to blast away at it, but it seems like we're not going to be able to get out of it. We begin to panic, but there is one more thing I can try to do to get us out of there. I close my eyes and begin to vibrate. I shake faster and faster until I begin to phase through Ego's tendrils and fall myself through the ground. Thankfully, my training with Makari made me a lot faster in my overall body structure as well, and not just how fast I run. With her training, I can now vibrate my molecules at such a rate that I can phase through objects. It's extremely tiring, but for situations like these, I need it. I phase through the ground and zip back up to pull Karis out and save her too. Luckily, since I'm so fast, the Sovereign didn't have time to go into the core yet, and we can still hold them off while avoiding Ego. All this is happening while the Guardians are blasting away at his core, and while Ego is trying to attack them too, the others can blast away at him to avoid the ship being damaged. Once Karis and I are done with the Sovereign, we head down to the core to help out too, and I grab Mantis and bring her to a crack in the ground so she can put Ego to sleep to buy us some time. Once that's done, the Guardians are able to burn to the core enough where once Ego wakes up and tries to kill them all himself, it's too late, and Quill can shoot the remains with his blaster, and it'll blow up Ego. With the core of Ego destroyed, he turns into sand and dusts away. And now it's time to get out of here. Luckily, since everybody is on the ship, we can all make it off to the planet before it explodes, which means Yondu also gets to survive. He is definitely a wanted man from the Ravagers now, since most of them got arrested once the Nova Corps arrested him, but he's got the Guardians of the Galaxy to protect him. And he worked with Quill on his mission, and the two bonded over fighting together again. So they have a healthier relationship now, even without him needing to die. After we all take a breather, Karis talks to Nebula, saying how she told her she was just trying to help before, and Nebula thanks her but asks why we keep showing up everywhere they go. Karis laughs, saying that we just have some good intel and want to help out as much as she can. She shakes her hand and tells her not to worry, as we'll make sure that Thanos doesn't do anything to harm her ever again. With another goodbye, we tell the Guardians we'll see them all again someday, and Karis opens up a portal so we can head home. With the Guardians movies completed, we can now head into the events of Age of Ultron. Though, since those events are going to be much different, and this has been a pretty long episode, we're going to be ending this episode here, and saving Ultron for next time. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video, as these MCU ones are the most fun to work on for me, and I got to cover two of my favorite movies in one part, so that's probably why I had so much to say about this one. Next time we return to Earth for Age of Ultron, so make sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next part once it comes out. Thank you all so much for watching, and until we meet again. See you later!